It's Monday, March 18. Thank you very much. And I really appreciate you being punctual. I know as we advance, usually during the semester, it's getting harder for everyone to be punctual. And as I have always mentioned, I am so proud of you, Margarita and Yuri, because you, the ones waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, are usually the most punctual students. And I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. As I have mentioned in some of the podcasts that I have recorded, you inspire me and I really appreciate you being here and on time. Thank you so much. So this week is going to be our last week of classes before UNLA's spring break. Remember, we mentioned this next week in UNLA. They have spring break in Mexico. Actually, I don't have spring break here, and I know different countries also have different calendars, but we have to, of course, try to follow UNLA's lead. So therefore, this is the only week in which we're going to have classes. And as I mentioned also before, we're going to be focusing this week in the communication of change management, the communication later on agile environments for next class, which is Wednesday. Today, we're going to be focusing mostly in the communication strategies, communication plans for the change management policies to actually be implemented in effective ways. We're going to watch a little video, and I believe actually if you have access to our Moodle, actually, Margarita, I just need to make sure, do you have access to Moodle? I just need to make sure you have been able to access our presentations. Do you have access to Moodle, Margarita?
Yes, I do know.
Very good. Beautiful. That's all I need to know, just to make sure you know that you don't need any support. So actually this presentation, you should already have it in Moodle. You can just follow it with me. And let's begin with a very quick review about what we have been talking, because even though we're going to be focusing only on communication for this week's, we're going to be focusing on all the communication strategies, etc. We still need to understand where we are located in between the whole change management process, etc. So we have already mentioned, and I'm going to very quickly have this review before we move on. So we have talked about how important it is guidance when we're talking about change management. In order for change management to be successful, of course, we need different types of leadership. In next academic period, we'll be leading with leadership styles and how these different leadership styles are going to adapt to different moments of the change management process. But guidance, coaching, support, that's going to be key and essential, of course, for our change management policies to be successful. Then, of course, solution. The objective of change management has to be to solve something, to improve something. And we have also talked about this. We will not go through the whole process of changing something that we have been doing in a certain specific way if it weren't because we are going to inevitably have better results, maybe save money, we're going to get more clients. There's got to be always a reason why all this effort is going to be well worth the effort, right, etc. So of course it's part also of the vision. Again, we have also talked about this in the some of the previous classes. Our change management strategy has to be linked to the vision of our corporation, our organization. We said actually that in many cases, if this change is not rooted, is not part of the framework of the complete organization, then what's going to happen is that it's only going to be on paper, but it's not going to be happening in reality, right? Of course, teamwork. Of course, we have talked about how important it is to be part of this organization and part of these teams. Now, first academic period, we focused all our efforts in understanding change from an individual perspective. But this academic period, second one, we have focused more on understanding the organization, right? And how this organization is going to, all the teams, all the whole different departments, etc. What is their role in this process of changing things? Direction. Of course, we need to know where we're going. Everything needs to be done with certain procedures. And we have talked also in some of the previous classes about some of those stages that we need to follow for change management to be successful. Again, I go back to strategy because not only this has to be rooted on the strategies of the organization, but it has to be also rooted on local strategies, individual strategies, perhaps per department, per teams, etc. Then we have communication. And today also we're going to begin by watching a little video in which we're going to understand why is it so important. Actually, I'm sharing also, if you go to Moodle, I am sharing a new book. If you go to our week, let me see if I have it. Let me just make sure. I'm going to stop sharing, okay? And let me just make sure that everyone has access in our e-virtual to, let me see. Yes, if you can go please to your Moodle course page, you should be able to find where it says week here. Yeah, I'm going to start sharing, please. Here we go. I'm going to start sharing. Okay, here we go. If you go to week 10, I'm already sharing here a different book, change management book. Okay, you're free to download it, of course. And some of the information that we will be sharing actually today has been taken from this book. Okay, this book was not originally in the materials that were shared with you, but now I'm sharing this with you. And again, you have the presentation. So for those of you who are just joining, okay, don't worry, it's just additional resources that I am offering to you that might be able to help you. But I wanted you to know that some of the information that I'm going to be sharing actually today has been taken from this. So you should be able to see. There you go. We're back in the presentation now. Okay. So communication is key, and of course, having a goal. Okay. So we're going to begin by watching this little video, okay, which we're going to be addressing. Why is it so important? Why do we have actually a lot of material? We have books, you have courses, we have modules, we have a lot of material completely focused on change management communication. If you Google actually change management communication, you're going to find a lot of resources, okay? Courses, as I already said, a lot of certifications, only focus on change management communication. So we're going to begin by watching this video. I'm going to be sharing, as I have done in the past, the link to our video in our chat. Please, before you go to watch the video, can you give me digital thumbs up just to let me know that you have the link and that you have access to the video, please? Okay, Margarita, thank you. Paola, Gabriela, Yuri, give me please thumbs up. I'm going to share again the link for those of you who just got here. Thank you, Paola. Thank you, Yuri. Okay, Gabriela, can you please confirm also if you have access to the video? Okay, and then I'm going to, very good, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to mute myself. Okay, I'm going to give you some time, just like we have done before. Make sure you take notes. Again, you're not going to have homework this week either. Just focus on your notes. Okay, very good. Thank you. So I'm going to mute myself. Let's watch this video together and we'll come back. We're going to have a little discussion about the main concepts and the main topics actually addressed in this video. Okay, thank you. I'll give you a few more minutes to finish your notes, okay? Thank you. Okay, guys, if you're ready, these steps that actually the person in our video shared, okay, we're going to be talking about them, all right? And because when we talk about change communication strategy, not only change management needs certain steps, but also the communication of this change needs also. It's going to need certain specific steps, okay? And again, I know you already have the presentation, so I hope you can follow it with me along, okay? And if you follow it along, we won't take a lot of time. Again, hopefully we'll finish in less than an hour and I'll let you go because I know as we advance in our semester, we have many other assignments, we have many other things to do, and I completely understand. So I'm trying to be understanding on that part. So let's begin again with the beginning. As I already said, and I already mentioned in the review we started with, okay? And if you can see the slide here we go. If you can see the slide, okay, there are certain steps that we need to follow in order for change management to take place. And this we have talked about in the past. We just need to understand them. How is communication going to be linked to each one of these elements? Now, before we advance, can you share, please, in the chat, whatever you took notes from this video? First of all, I hope you took notes about what is the percentage of change management strategies that fail due to poor communication. Let's see if any of you got that information. If you can share it, please, in the chat. Start getting ready to share in the chat some of the information that we just watched in our video. Okay, so who got the percentage? Again, I'm going to repeat, this is part of some of the first information that the presenter shares, okay? What is the percentage of change management strategies or change management efforts that actually fail due to poor communication? Anyone has the data? Let's see. It's okay. You can say, I don't have it. That's okay. That's all right. You're not in trouble. You're not in trouble, Paula. Okay, so make sure you take notes. 60%. 60%, okay, I'm going to write it again in the chat. Don't worry if you didn't get it. Again, I know it's a lot of information and I know, there you go, 60%. 60% of change management efforts, 60% of change management strategies fail due to poor communication. That's why from all the elements that we started talking about at the beginning of this class, we're going to focus just 1 week in communication. This is the reason why. Because if we don't follow certain specific steps, it's very easy to assume things or to believe that everybody's understanding things, you know, oh yeah, it's no. And mainly when we're talking about huge organizations, remember also when we are trying to manage a team, if just communicating with our own team is challenging, can you imagine when we try to talk about corporations, multinationals, right? Or corporations that have branches all around the world, that makes it even more difficult. Now, this change management that we're referring to can be anything, from adopting a new software for employees, maybe from a new onboarding process, from a new training, okay, for new procedures, for maybe a new role that is going to be developed. Some roles are changing now, or jobs are changing, are evolving. So this could be any type of change. And organizations now, remember, in this second academic period, we're taking everything from the organizational perspective, not the individual perspective, right? So as organizations, and we as leaders of those organizations, I ask you to step in the role of a leader in organizations, so this makes sense. Otherwise, this is not going to make sense, all right? So please position yourself as leaders of organizations, leaders of, again, big groups, big teams, and then this is going to make sense, all right? Very good. So another question, let's see if you got some of the information also from the video. And again, it's okay if you didn't get it. It's a lot of information. The first step, actually, they said, is to try to understand the level, the criticality of each one of our employees. Why? Because there are going to be employees that are highly critical in the importance on how communicated they need to be at the beginning. And also, we're going to have maybe employees that have a lower critical role in this communication, meaning we need to make sure we understand from all our employees, we're not going to launch just like an email. We're not going to launch just like a YouTube tutorial or anything. We need to stage, okay, stage how we're going to be doing. And we're going to be talking about this again. Then also they said, and I love this, we need to select a team of leaders. So this means that in order for change management to be successful in an organization, we need a change leader first, okay? And then we need a team, right? Like a change team, all right? They have different names, and there is usually leaders, okay? They can be leaders from different areas, from different departments, and you as a leader, when you get them on board, actually the video mentioned, you get their commitment and their accountability. So you need to have the buy-in of these leaders first. So all of you, for example, you are all leaders, right? You can be either the change leader, or you can be part of the team that is going to be helping all the organization deal with this change and adapt to these changes. Then number 3, let's see if you remember. She talked actually to try to think bigger and now share the passion of your vision. Okay, these are words that I hope you wrote down too. She talked about something called the ethos, okay, which is the ethical appeal, which is going to give credibility to this change. Finally, in number 4, then now she's talked about, now we're going to focus on smaller teams. Now we need to spread the information, etc., etc. And then, of course, we're going to be celebrating those little successes that we're going to be getting while we phase out all this adapting to a new change in an organization. Now, in this slide that you can see here, okay, these are the stages of change management. And in this case, in the video, she stated the stages of only change management communication. So what is important to understand is that this is going to be taking place almost at the same time. But if we don't pay special attention to communication, and we only focus in this process that you can see right now, only the change management, this is not enough. We need to pay specific attention to communication. Now, before I continue, I would like to know your ideas and your opinions about the importance of communication. Now, I know many of you may not have a lot of organizational experience just yet, but you have been part of teams, you have been part, of groups, etc. And you do probably have experienced this problem in which 60% of problems are usually based because we cannot communicate effectively. So again, before I continue talking, because I've been doing a lot of talking today, I would like to know your opinions, your ideas, your reflections, your questions, your doubts about the importance of communication in change management. And no cheating, don't go ahead with the PowerPoint slides, okay? Don't worry. I don't need a right or a wrong answer. I just need to know your opinions, your ideas, and what you're thinking, okay? So Margarita, what do you think about the importance of communication in order for change management to be successful?
Well, I find it extremely important And also in the video, it was said that it's extremely important for the leader, like not to make any promises to his employees, but to ally with their fears. So I find it like really important, and the effectiveness of change is like depend on the communication.
Wonderful, Margarita. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I'm glad you mentioned exactly something that I didn't mention. If we don't communicate, and let's see what else also, if anybody else, I don't want to say it. Let's see if anybody else got it. Paola, anything else? What are you thinking? Then I'll go to Europe. Okay. Paola, what do you think about the relevance and importance of communication in order for change management to be successful?
Well, it's important because everyone needs to have the same approach. Every employee, it doesn't it doesn't matter if he has a high critical role or a less critical role. Everyone has to have the same approach because all the efforts together are going to achieve the main objective of the company by following all the ethics and the values. So by having like this communication, all these ideas together, everyone, every work, every yeah, every project of every people has like the same target, you know?
Correct, correct. Super important, Paula. Thank you so much. Now, Yuri, in your case, I'm going to ask you something differently because you are right now working in a very fast-paced environment. Could you, Yuri, share what happens when we assume things in a project, like the project that you're working on? I know you're working in a very successful organization, and I know, like, you guys, that's what you get paid, and I'm so happy for you. But have you seen, Yuri, or have you witnessed any problems that have been maybe, I don't know, originated because of bad communication between teams, clients, etc.? Could you share an example, Yuri? Hello, hello. Do we have Yuri over there? I don't know if he can hear us. Maybe he cannot. Okay, we'll come back to him in a bit. It's okay. If you can hear us, Yuri, I just wanted you to share an experience about maybe something that confusion maybe or misunderstanding taking place in real life, because I know you're working with a software development organization that will have been interesting. But anyway, we're going to move on. Okay, let's move on with the presentation. And now, can you help me read this, Paola, please?
Yes. Uh, Change management communication is the process of building awareness and support for organizational change. It helps stakeholders understand what's changing and why, and how it will affect them. It delivers timely information and materials, ensures stakeholders receive information about what's important, and provides ways to share feedback and ask questions.
As you can see, that's why I love this little chart. And I present this to my students here, the project management too. Change management plus change communication is the only way to create impact. If we think that just by following the change management processes and steps is enough, it's not. You need to cause an impact in order to, again, remember, we already talked, right, about how difficult it is to change, and we don't want to move from our comfort zone. So again, this needs to be supported by a great communication strategy. Now, change management communication is going to start with why. And what is very important, remember in the first one of the first or second stage when she also said, share the passion of your vision, right? So it's super important that we are able to understand why are we changing. That is the basic part. If we don't understand that, nothing else is gonna happen. And I have been the witness actually of changes happening just because no one, or maybe not communicating us why, right? And then because nobody communicated to us why this change was necessary, when the change happened, guess what? We didn't support it. We just went like, oh yeah, whatever, but we don't believe it. So that affects, of course, the commitment, that we all have to this change. And at the end, it's not going to be successful because we, even the employees, we don't feel part of the change. However, when you ask others and ask them and help them understand why are we changing, you're helping them get involved and actually start feeling passionate about, you know what, I think you're right. We may need this. So why is there a business need? What is the business case for change? What is the vision for change that we are going to have? What is the risk if we don't change? And when or what is the timeline? Now, we have talked about this also in some of the other processes, remember, in some of the previous classes. But I thought in order for us to understand the importance of communicating this has to be one of the first elements that needs to be understood first. In this case, by us as the leaders, the ones in charge of leading this change or this organization into this new stage, okay? Now, this might look a little confusing, but don't freak out. This is actually this is a figure which is in chapter 3 in this new book that I also shared in our Moodle course page. Okay, you're free to use it. You're free to download it. It's very technical. That's why I'm only using some of the information from the book, because in real life, they use this in a very technical way. So if you go into operations, maybe some of the steps suggested by this book are going to sound like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. But if you are more into strategy, then this is going to sound too operational. But again, it's a very good manual, because actually, if you can download it and just use it as part of your resources, this is a manual. This is a real manual that you can adapt, and tells you step 1, step 2, and it gives you a lot of forms. It gives you a lot of, templates that you can use. Now, what is important here? I would like you to pay attention to the 3 main stages. First, we have planning, then we have implementation, and then we have evaluation, okay? I believe we have talked about this, even part of the basic administrative process and phases, right? But what we need to understand also is that in the planning, implementation, and evaluation, you see we have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, 5, 6, and 7. And also what I love is that in 3, which is only communication, we have as the process of communication within, the whole process of the change management. So the only thing that I like about this chart is that it's giving you a visual representation of what I'm trying to explain. Within the whole change management process, we have just one for trying to share only communication. Okay, so I hope this is clear. I'm going to read the first. Planning and implementation of change management takes place all through the planning, the implementation, and the evaluation, because we need to go back to the planning, check how the plan worked. Now, the vision development, this is super important. And you see this is number 2, because the vision development, and I'm going to go back, is actually going to use this. Why are we changing? How is this change going to link? How is this change going to connect with our organizational values, our mission, our philosophy? Why do we need this? If we don't make sure that this vision development is clear, then again, the rest is not going to work. Now, once our vision is clear, then we must focus on how we're going to communicate this vision in an effective way. All right. And actually, if you can read in the little chart, can you give me a digital thumbs up if you can see the little chart? If not, make sure please to download the presentation that you have on your little course. So you should be able, thank you. Okay, very good, thank you. So you can see on top, for example, thank you, communication of the vision to the managers. So first is, and again, it's not about who's more or less important. Actually, the video mentioned this very nicely. They said highly critical employees and lower critical employees, but they're all critical, okay? All of them. However, at the beginning, those managers, those are the first ones. If we don't get them on board, if they're not part of that team of leaders, of change leaders, then it's not going to work. Of course, vision and the kickoff, you see that. Then I'm going to go to 3.4, because then we go to vision information event. In this case, they are going to have an event, okay? Managers, vision dialogue kickoff. So they have more a dialogue on one-on-one with employees. And the kickoff means we all managers at the same time start talking to our teams at the same time. So there's no confusion. What happens if we don't do it at the same time? What happens if sales starts talking about the change that is coming before they do in marketing or before they do in human resources? Well, there's going to be confusion, because then some employees are going to say, wait a minute, why are they talking about that? They are not, are we not that important? So you see, there are so many misunderstandings that can take place if we don't follow good communication strategy. Then continuous vision, dialogues, making sure that everybody's understanding. Team meetings, of course, and we usually have a vision manual. So this is a real example of how in real companies they deal. This is an example, just an example. It's not mandatory to follow this, but in real life, this is what happens, okay? Now I'm going to go to number 4. Now, vision implementation. Now that we have informed that note, and now that everybody understands our vision, now we're going to implement our vision. How? Through planning, implementation of the change, and evaluation of the change. So see, again, this is another stage that takes place all through the 3 main stages of the change management process. Communication, again, is part of it all the time. We go back and forth. Participation, collaboration, I will add. And then finally, we have qualification, which is now that we have implemented, are we doing the things correctly? Do we need to go back? Do we need to change anything? Etc. etc. Very good. Okay, guys. So the stages of change management, CM, we're going to call it CM, change management communication. So evaluate change management impact and organizational readiness by doing this. So we're going to begin. Let's go back to our chart, and what we're going to, before we start going to these stages, after we have seen this example, I'm going to go back and be more specific in each one of those stages. So the first thing we need to understand before in the part of the planning and implementation, okay, of the change management is the company ready for this? Is this the right time, the right moment? What am I saying this? Because even if we have analyzed that, for example, we need a new software, right? To, I don't know, try to track maybe the employees' achievements, tasks, their work, etc. Even if, is this the right time? Is this the beginning of the semester? Is this the end of the semester? Should we wait until January? Are vacation breaks coming? Are we ready to do so? Is everyone already on board, etc.? So clearly define the change in the vision for the future. What is changing? Will these changes, when you start talking to your team leaders, are they already on board? Or maybe it's taking longer for the leaders to be on board. So maybe this is not the right time. We need to maybe extend one of those phases 1 more week, etc. Assess all the factors that are going to be related to the change. And here I'm going to stop because this is super important. What risks, goals, culture, and other changes are happening, and what other internal and external factors could influence them? Remember when we talk about pestle from outside? What's happening not only in the country, what is happening in the industry? If this is a software development industry, what's going on? If AI development is going to affect or not, like Roxana was saying the other day, maybe this is not affecting so much because it's already part of it's part of us. Oh, okay, so in your case, that's not affecting. And another thing to take consideration, analyze all the stakeholders are affected. Now, very important. Who are stakeholders? Stakeholders are people, organizations, or entities that can affect our organization, or that organization affects either directly or indirectly. So stakeholders are, of course, customers, of course, our employees, of course, our suppliers, our neighbors, government, authorities. Stakeholders are absolutely the community, the society. Everyone is part of the stakeholders. And in this case, how are different groups and roles affected? Who's being impacted the most with this change? Is this the right? Again, I have to say, in order to evaluate the organizational readiness, do we have enough channels of communication? Because when the time comes, this change management is not only, is not only going to be communicated within our employees, but it also needs to be communicated outside with our customers, right? Have you seen, for example, when companies change their logo? right? Everybody starts, oh, we have something new, something is coming, and they start sending like some ads to prepare the public outside. Well, but this should happen inside first. So we need to go from the inside to the outside. And finally, consider how the organization operates. Once a clear vision of the future is developed, how is it different from the way the organization operates today? And what risks are there in moving to the future state? Do we need to change procedures? Are we all in the right moment, or do we need to step back? And before we launch this huge, maybe let's adopt a new software. Before we do that, let's work with those departments that maybe are still behind in maybe still getting adjusted to other type of procedures before we bring a new software, for example. And I'm using the software just as an example. Okay, very good. So step one, assess the situation, the people, the needs, the channel. Now we know this is a quick review because I know you have been talking about the types of communication probably since you were in high school, right? But as obvious as this may sound, guess what happens when we're really thinking about this? We assume that everything has to be done by an email, right? Or we assume that everything has to be done in a meeting, and that's it. No, there has to be a reason why we're going to be doing a meeting. There has to be a reason why we're going to be sending an email. There has to be a reason why we're going to be creating a tutorial, etc., etc. So we're going to stop here and we're going to take some notes, okay? The first thing I would like to ask you also, we know there are different types of communication: verbal, nonverbal, visual, and written. Very good. Now, I would also like to ask you, and this you're going to Google, okay? So Margarita, Paola, and Yuri, I think you're here if you're back. Please Google, okay? This is what you're going to Google in communication. There's something called push communication and something called pull communication. I'm going to write it here in the chat, okay? And I'm going to ask you to please Google what is pull communication and what is push communication. And you can either copy paste and share it here on the chat, or you can read. You can also go to images, okay, and maybe see what's the difference between pull and push. This is super important, and this is a term that is very, very important to take in consideration when we're talking about the channels, the ways we're going to be communicating, okay? So I'm going to give you a few seconds to find the information and start sharing whenever you're ready, okay? Okay, if you don't want to copy paste, you can also read what you're finding. Don't worry. Okay. So who can tell me what is pull communication? And if you don't understand, that's okay too. I'll explain it. I just need to know what you found. Okay. So from what you found, I can start from that. Very good. Let's see, Margarita. Push, the sender pushes the information to receiver, yes, and pull, the sender produces content that can be asynchronously consumed by the receiver. Thank you, Margarita. Anything else that you may have found, Paula? Otherwise, I'm going to be explaining this in a minute. So just like you said, and just share, Paula, if you find it there, don't worry. Or you can open your microphone and also share. So this is very, very interesting. Those YouTube videos that we watch here in class, okay? Those are videos that have been created. They are already there on YouTube. Yes. Okay. Now, those are considered pull, part of pull communication, interactive information and share back and forth in real time. Thank you. Now, this is important then. Pull is when you go and you access a video, you access a tutorial, and you take it. Not because somebody told you that you had to take it. Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Yuri. Yes. I'm going to read what Yuri says, and then I'm going to explain. I'm going to go with pull first. Pull communication involves the receiver actively seeking out the information they require. The sender makes the information available, but it is up to the receiver to initiate the communication. So again, I'm going to go to pull. If you can take notes, please, about what pull communication is. So pull communication is when you create videos and you have tutorials. For example, also, you're in software development. There are a lot of manuals, right? But you're not forced, like, unless you received an email, that is push communication. When you send an email directed to Paola, could you please be kind enough to read the following? And that's push communication. I'm sending it to Paola. It's directed to someone. But pull communication is information that is there. It can be a book, can be a manual. For example, the book that I just uploaded on Moodle, is that push or is that pull? What do you think? Write it in your chat. I shared a book in our course Moodle page. What do you think that is? What type of communication would it be, that book? Pull communication or push? I'm going to help you. Don't worry. Yes. Well, if I ask you, thank you, Paula, because I put it in our course Moodle, it's kind of push, right? But it's pull because I told you you're free to access it or not. And that is up to you. That is your decision. So if I had asked you, please go and download the book and open the book on chapter 3, could you please start? That's push. I'm being very directive, okay? And it's usually, that's push, right? And it's pull when I tell you, well, it's up to you. You have the information there, okay? So why do we have to understand this difference between push and pull communication? Because not all the communication that you're going to be sharing with your critical and less critical employees is going to be pushed. Meaning, for example, let's go to the written. An email that is directed to you, is that push or is that pull? What is an email? Go to your chat. What is an email that is directed to you? Would you please read the following chart and give me your feedback? What type of communication is that? Is that push or is that pull communication? What do you think? I'm going to give you a situation again. I'm sending you an email directed to you, and I'm asking you, could you please read the following information and give me your feedback? So what is that? Push or pull? Are you awake? Hello? It's okay. We're going to have a break in 5 minutes. I promise. I know. It's early in the morning, very early in the morning for you. Don't worry. Oh, yes. Thank you, Paola. Thank you, Paola, saving me. It's push, right? Very good. Okay. And a video that is on YouTube and we go and we access it, that's pull, right? So it is clear that when we're referring to communication, not everything is going to have to be push information. Now, a lot of websites, for example, okay, let me give you another example. UNLA, if you go to UNLA website, okay, they have a calendar. They have PDFs with the school calendar there, okay? What kind of information is that? That is pull, because you go, you look for information, and if you need it, you access it and you download it, but it's not directed to you. So the same is going to happen with a change management process. Some communication is going to be directed to some specific teams of people, but some information is going to be, Margarita, Yuri, Paula, do you need more information? There's a book. If you need, you can access it. It's not mandatory, but you have the information there, okay? That is pull. I'm not forcing it to you, all right? I'm just sharing it there, yes, and you can access it or not. That's up to you. That is pull. Why is it important then to have a variety of communication that is push and that is pull? Because sometimes people, they're not going to be only listening to your emails, or they're not only going to be, right? They have many other things to do. So sometimes some managers are going to tell their teams, you know what? You have a lot of materials in our intranet. Access the materials, and on Wednesday, we'll have a meeting to solve the questions you have based on the materials that you were able to access, okay? So that's easier. I am going to respect your own time. You access whatever information you need, and that's it. So I was asking Yuri, I'm glad that you're back, Yuri. I was asking at the beginning, like, for example, you have a lot of manuals and there's a lot of information, but you don't have to access it. Just if you have questions or if you have doubts, you go and access them, right? Like, or if you have previous, you know, I don't know, software that has been developed similarly or something, you can always access extra material, right, Yuri? I don't know if this is making sense. You're not obligated or it's not mandatory, but you have all these materials that you can access, right? So anyway, let's have a little break. I know it's Monday. Well, for many of you, it's Tuesday morning. Okay. And I know you're tired. Let's take 10 minutes. Okay. When we come back, we're going to continue. Don't worry if we don't finish talking about this today. It's a long topic. And I know. We're only going to come back and I'll go for no more than 15 or 20 minutes. Okay. As I already told you from the beginning of our semester, as we go into the end of our semester, I know you're super busy. I know you're super tired. And I promise I'm not going to be taking so much time, so much more of your time. Okay, so let's take 10 minutes of a break. We'll meet again here in 10 minutes. You can disconnect again. Don't worry. Just come back in 10 minutes and we'll continue with our communication. Thank you. And I know, don't worry, she's not going to get in trouble. And actually, because we don't have a lot of students today, I'm just going to wrap it up with maybe the next slide and we'll continue on Wednesday. Okay. So just to remind everyone, one of the first steps that we need to take in consideration, of course, after we have understood the importance of this change, etc., is assess the situation. Different people are going to have different communication needs, and for them, we're going to have to use different communication channels. Okay. Now, in the following slide, actually, if you can see, okay, create a change communication plan. I'm going to stop here because I wouldn't like to explain everything related to a communication plan if we don't have all the rest of our classmates. But I just wanted you to understand that usually in a plan, I'm going to go very quickly, but again, next class, I'm going to explain. In a communication plan, in a formal communication plan, this is a good example, okay, the one you can see right now. Each one of the stakeholders, which are usually put in the orders, I don't want to say importance, everyone is important, but remember, even the video mentioned that some of those stakeholders are going to be highly critical, some are going to be lower critical. So we need to, the first thing we need to understand is make sure we have a complete list of stakeholders. I will address this again next class. Communication method that we're going to be using, for example, in this case, a committee, a status report, a status meeting, text. Well, in this case is the text that we're supposed to be here, but just the three, just pay attention to the first three, okay? Frequency, monthly, first Tuesday of each month, weekly, Friday, weekly, Thursday. Now, where it says text here, I hope, or I was wishing and hoping that we were going to create this together, but we can create it next class. Okay, we're going to do this next class. Responsibility, account manager, project manager, project management office, etc. And some of the notes, for example, in this case, this review needs to be here. In this case, these changes need to be blah, 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 etc., etc. So I'm going to probably leave it here. I don't want to go very deeply into it. And again, this is actually from a software because even the communication plan now is done through softwares. I don't know if Yuri, probably you have heard about Asana and of those softwares. Again, I'm going to mention this next class. And this is actually how in the change management communication, you can see the percentage of communication that has been done, all the reports have been sent, the meetings have been taking place, the tutorials have been watched, etc., etc. So there are many ways in which we can do this. Anyway, so I'm going to stop here again because we don't have a lot of audience today, and I don't want to advance as much as it is because this should be a more hands-on and a more practical class. Okay, so don't worry. It's been great seeing you. I really appreciate how patient you have seen. This class, actually, this first part of the class, I'm going to upload it to YouTube too, all right? Because I need to make sure that all the other students watch this part of the class and we'll continue on Wednesday. So please have a beautiful morning. I really appreciate all of you being here and I'll see you on Wednesday, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll be sending everyone an email so you can watch the videos, okay? Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Agatha. Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.